Hey everybody, it is on screen, off screen, back with another episode this week. Let's start with something similar to our last episode Venom, The Last Dance. What do you got, man?
So, Lauren, our artist, has been bothering me. Not really bothering me, but she's reminded me periodically to watch this movie because she wanted to rant about it.
Oh, okay.
Uh, she really, really does not like this movie. And I agree. Um, I think it's only slightly worse than the second one, though.
Oh, wow. I completely disagree. I
Uh,
think the second movie is a trash heap.
it is. It is not very good. And Tom Hardy is pretty much the saving grace of the second one. But this one, it's like they had a bunch of Venom memes that they wanted to show, and
Okay.
then they tried to tie together the memes by a shoestring. So the
That's
plot is
fair.
super weak. All of the characters kind of suck. Um, in the second one, you have like this genuine like villain that they're trying to build up, and yeah, they didn't do a good job with it, but you felt like they were trying. In this one, they were like, hey, people kind of liked seeing Venom and all the neon stuff at the club. So we're going to redo that just over and over and over again. And in order to make it make sense, we're going to put together this teeny little plot of how to get to the next point and not like this overarching thing that would make any kind of sense to anybody. Okay, break, let's go. And so I hated Venom in the club thing. I thought that was like one of the dumbest things ever. And I do think that that part is dumber than anything in the third one.
That's fair. Especially not the club, but the dancing
Yeah,
with the. Yeah,
with
that's
all the glow
terrible.
in the dark things,
No,
it's
no, no,
awful.
no. The one where he dances with the lady
Oh
up
yeah,
in
that's
that hotel
awful.
room.
But
That is
the
the
club
worst
is
part.
worst.
No,
Yeah, the
that
club
the
is the
dancing with the
worst.
woman. That they literally know that having the suit out and the noise and stuff attracts this thing that's going to eat you. And they're
Yep.
like, let's just have this dancing scene right here
Yeah,
where we're the. It was so dumb.
I agree. But that's what I'm saying is it's just like they wanted that meme, so they tied it together so loosely to get the meme, right? And in the
Yeah,
second one, you have them trying to make a plot. They're trying to have an actual villain.
they're trying
They're trying to
something,
have
I
it make
guess.
sense. Yeah. I'm not defending the second one. It's not a good movie. I would not rewatch the second one. But him in the club with the neon thing doing the truffle shuffle or whatever it's called is the cringiest, worst thing that any of the Venoms have done.
Uh, I agree.
Followed next by him dancing with the lady.
I agree. It's bad. The dancing with the lady to me was like off. It was awful. It was
That was him in the
awful,
club with the glow sticks to me.
dude. That was bad too. But I hated the dancing up with the lady.
I agree. It was terrible. Like I said, it's kind of like they wanted a bunch of Venom memes. And so they're like, hey, here's what we want to do. We want to have him dancing with this old lady. We want to have him do a cool bike jump with some background other Venoms. We want this screenshot. We want this thing. How do we tie it all together? Okay, how about this? All right, now this. Okay, now we're
Yeah, and
kind
you
of
have
do
this
this.
bullshit alien thing that somehow is hunting him, but it's never hunted him before.
Yeah, and
And
it
there's
can
this
only see
god
him when he's
thing
in
that's
full form, but not when
yeah,
he's in full form in the horse.
yeah.
So yeah, except then. So the whole plot doesn't make sense. It's very loosely tied together, scene to scene. Don't watch this movie. That's what I have to say about The Last Dance. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but I mean, at least Tom Hardy's in it.
So like for me, the reason that I like it better than the second one, and to me this was like a fully mediocre, not good movie, but you have the scene where he's stealing the suit from the person outside of Vegas. That genuinely made me laugh. I liked that scene. Um,
I didn't like that scene.
you have the family that you're trying to protect, which I actually enjoy them being protected. The dad who's obsessed with aliens and there's literally an alien right behind him, I found funny on an ironic kind of a way. I enjoyed that little piece. And then the other Venoms don't really make a lot of sense, but I at least enjoyed the fight with them, even though they're kind of nonsensical. That's
I
about it.
didn't. I think it's the exact opposite, right?
Mm.
Because in the second one, you get Carnage and the serial killer. And yeah, they really didn't do a great job with it, but they did something with it. Uh, I mean, I'm honestly like operating off of memory from the second one because I haven't seen it in a really long time.
It's just so unmemorable.
But this one is memorable for the wrong reasons.
That's true.
Right? That is worse to
Besides
me than
this,
forgettable.
besides the part where they're still in the suit, because I remember that because I thought it was funny.
I did not find that funny. I found it really annoying. I also didn't love the hippies. I found them obnoxious, and there's literally no reason for them to be there as often as they're there. Like, they're like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if Venom ran into some hippies? Wouldn't it be funny if the hippies shot a grenade launcher? Like, that's literally what I felt like the third one was, and it's
That's so funny.
terrible. It's so obnoxious. It's like, okay, I don't know who wrote this, but I'm guessing they had 10 brownies before they entered the writing room, where they had 20 waiting for them.
Oh, that's funny. That is funny. So for you, Venom. I'm curious. All the Venoms. Rate all of them.
One is like an 8 out of 10. I genuinely
Oh,
really, really like it. Tom Hardy
okay.
does a great job. It's clearly the best showing of Venom, and they
Yes.
established him. Great origin story. I think Tom Hardy's a great Eddie Brock. Uh, it's not a perfect movie, but when I rewatch it, yeah, absolutely. I love the first one. So good.
Okay.
Uh, second one, since it's as forgettable as it is, but has that scene with the neon glow sticks ingrained in my mind as kind of its negative mark. Like 4.5, I know like Carnage was pretty forgettable and not great and should have been really great.
Yeah.
Should have been really great, but wasn't.
Carnage is awesome and everything else.
Yeah. So 4.5 for me because, the rest is forgettable. So if it's forgettable, it's probably pretty mediocre. Uh, 3 is like a 2 out of 10
Okay. Okay. For
because
me,
it
it
did
was
have some
like
cool like scenes and shots, and like the fighting didn't make any sense. The other Venoms didn't make any sense. If they all had those powers and the doctors really defended the Venoms as much as they were, they would have used them so much earlier. The fact that she at the very end was like, I guess I'll use this one last one that happens to have super speed and would have made the entire fight pointless. Like all of those things. But yeah, it had the little jump with the motorcycle homage to the first one. They did put the show to rest, knowing that they're not getting Tom Hardy for a fourth one, but still left the door open for a fourth one should they get a new Venom. Eh, but that's literally the only positive things I can say about that movie.
okay. Mine was like an 8, 4, 4.5. Is probably where I put it. That's partly because I like Carnage as much as I do, and I was just extremely disappointed.
That's fair. But forgettable is better than terribly ingrained in your mind. Like, will I ever forget the hippies? No. Is it for because they were funny or charismatic or did anything cool? No. The only thing that the hippies did that I liked is when Venom's like, ooh, they're having a barbecue. Let's go over there. And then they say, it's vegan. And he throws the food away. That is the only funny thing in this entire movie. Everything else sucks. And so, yeah, like memorable in a bad way is worse than forgettable. And the second one's forgettable.
Second one is forgettable. All right, man. With that, let's go to my first one. The Spy Next Door. I Said I would watch this after The Pacifier. The Pacifier is better than this movie. This movie sucks. Um, when Jackie Chan is being Jackie Chan, I enjoy this movie. That is all I enjoy about this movie. The When Jackie Chan is talking, it's like, I know you can act. I've seen other movies. Why do you suck in this? When anyone else is talking,
Okay, time out. In what movie is Jackie Chan a good actor?
Drunken Master, he is awesome.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. I haven't seen it. Everything I've seen Jackie Chan in, he's not a good actor. He
I
is an
would
expert martial artist, and he has some charismatic qualities that get him beyond the bad acting.
that's fair. That is fair, honestly. Um, but he's particularly bad in this movie, and I don't know if it's
Fair.
the line writing or what it is. It's just bad. All of the lines, every piece of dialogue in this movie, all of it is bad. All of it. Um, Billy Ray Cyrus is terrible, and I know he's not a good actor. Like, I've watched Hannah Montana. He's not a great actor, but he is
Love
not
Hannah
like
Montana.
a I love Hannah Montana too. He's, like I said, he's not atrocious in this movie. He is atrocious. He is freaking annoying. Plug your ears. Don't want to watch this nonsense. Terrible.
Okay, but
All
to be
the
fair, he kind of is an annoying person. And I
kind
say
of. He's
that
like
solely
there's
because
such a
of one
10 in
music
this.
video.
Which one?
I forgot what the song's called, but he's talking about driving and he gets annoyed that somebody flips him off. And here's why I hate that scene. He's in the left lane driving slowly. You deserve to be flipped off in that situation.
Absolutely, he does. Like, good criminy. I don't. Ugh. The little girl in the other one, the little kids are sometimes cute and it feels genuine. In this, it feels like they were trying to like shove cuteness down your throat and it just makes it not work. The teenager feels too young to be as annoying as she is. She's just annoying throughout the entire film. When they have their like heart to heart in this one, the lines are like, "Hi, your dad was gone? Yeah, my dad was gone. Oh, that's terrible that your dad was gone. I know it's terrible that my dad was gone." Ugh. I do not like this movie. Um, the twist with the bad guy at the end was like, oh, duh, this was gonna happen, and it was terrible. The spy gadgets are not good. This movie sucks. George Lopez is awful. The Pacifier was not my favorite movie, but I didn't hate it. It was just kind of a mediocre whatever movie. This movie is by far Jackie Chan's worst movie by miles, and it sucks.
I disagree with that statement
Oh, yes, worst movie.
because
Worst
there's
movie.
the Karate Kid with Jackie Chan in it. That is his worst movie.
No, this is so much worse. I will watch that every single day before I watch this piece of junk. I
When was
did.
the last time you
Oh,
saw that piece of crap?
it's been years. It's been a long time. I've seen it twice, and I think that it is overhated. Is it nearly as good as the other ones? No, but I think it's overhated.
Oh, it's absolutely not. Let's be
But
honest. There is only one good movie with Jaden Smith in it, and it's not that one.
which one is it?
Pursuit of Happiness.
Oh, actually, I think there's one other one that I kind of like with him. What is it? Pursuit of Happiness is fantastic. It's by far his best one.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm only really aware of 3 Jaden Smith movies off the top of my head. There's this one.
is he in the Pokemon movie?
I do not know the answer to that question. There's the one with him and Will Smith where it's all futuristic and it
Yeah, that was a
sucks.
bad movie.
And Karate Kid and Pursuit of
Oh,
Happiness. Those
okay.
are the 3 I can think of off the top of my head with Jaden Smith in it.
Yeah. It's not the Pokemon movie. Nope, that's his one good movie. Like, one good movie. I do think that I still think the Karate Kid gets more hate than it deserves. I think it's a terrible movie. I think it's
Let me
kind of
put it
fine.
this way. I was not a Karate Kid fan before I saw Jaden Smith's Karate Kid, and I hated it.
That's wild.
I did not watch the old Karate Kids till years after Jaden Smith's Karate Kid because of how much I hated Jaden Smith's Karate Kid.
Why do you hate it that bad? Because I thought it was mediocre.
Because it sucks. It like the writing is poor, the acting is terrible. Jackie Chan feels like he's phoning it in, literally. Like he doesn't even feel like he cares about the project in this one.
Hmm.
Uh, like all of it, I was like, okay, I've seen scenes from the old one, and this one feels like it does those scenes badly on purpose. And then you have this plot that doesn't make sense, and you have this romance between this like 8-year-old kid and this 13-year-old girl. And it's like, yeah, it's not as bad as Star Wars Episode 1, but
But it's rough.
you're, you're flirting a line there, my guy. And it's not even like good and like everything. Like, I genuinely just hated that movie. I thought it was
Okay.
terrible.
Yeah, I maybe I'll watch it again, but I absolutely guarantee that I will like that movie more than I like The Spy Next Door. Well, I hate both.
I think Spy Next Door is
And
his next worst that comes to my mind.
The Spy Next Door, the villains, they're not Russian, and their Russian accents are awful. You couldn't find anybody who could do a half decent. It is terrible. This movie sucks. It's a sucky movie. Okay,
So
but I
here's the
would.
important question,
Oh
though. Here's the important question.
yes,
Does it make you like the pacifier any better?
a little bit. Yeah, honestly.
Okay.
Like this movie is that bad. I thought I am giving this movie. I would give it a 1 star, but there's a Jackie Chan scene where he uh puts the ladder on somebody's neck and then he like walks over it and he's the one actually doing that thing. That deserves half a point because that is so cool. The rest of the movie sucks.
Fair enough.
I really don't like it. Anyway, man, what is your second one?
All right. My next topic is the show Revolution. Have you seen it?
Yes, Al.
Okay. I watched this a long time ago. I remember really, really liking it a lot. I got my hands on it, so I was able to rewatch it. And I started noticing a lot of things, specifically how many big names by today's standards are attached to this project. J.J. Abrams and John Favreau as producers. Billy Burke, I know him from 911 Lone Star and a few other projects. Giancarlo Esposito, my favorite TV villain ever. People know him from Breaking Bad, Mandalorian, Far Cry. Um, Elizabeth Mitchell, I know her from Santa Claus movies, and she's also in Once Upon a Time. Um, I started noticing the John Favreau effect, specifically how similar this show is to Star Wars in a lot of ways. Um, they even have some similar like scenes, like what if Star Wars was in this universe? Let's have the trash compactor scene. Let's have the whatever scene in this show. Uh, the premise of living in a modern world where micro robots shut off the power for everyone, I found super interesting. Uh, the world building with the factions of, you have the rebels wanting to restore America, you know, based on the American principles is fantastic. And like the start of the show is so freaking good. I don't know what you remember about the show, but like,
I don't remember it that well. I watched it when it came out originally, which was 2013, 12.
okay.
I remember liking the show, and I remember the basic plot, and I remember some things about it, but I don't remember it super well.
Okay. So for listeners, like my experience was binge watching this show. I watched The 100, absolutely loved season 1, got through to like season 3.5 ish, and then got sick of it and turned it off and turned this on. So it's a similar like kind of show.
Mm.
Um, but this one's only 1 season long.
There's two
But
seasons.
I remember there's 1 season. I
I'm
remember
looking at it right now.
absolutely loving this show. And upon rewatching it, you kind of feel like the cast and everybody knew when they weren't going to get renewed, because it kind of feels like they start just piling on all these plot lines that they were originally trying to build or thought would be good ideas, and trying to tie it up before everything ended. Um, so it kind of got really wobbly, and then, in my opinion, failed to stick the landing. Uh, so a really good beginning, had a lot of really good things going for it, but eventually fell apart. And I don't remember it falling apart that bad on my first watch, but I would say that this is worth a watch simply because I think the premise and the world building is really good, and that beginning of it is genuinely really, really, really good, with a lot of really good things going for it.
Yeah, I think I finished it, but dude, I'm telling you, I'm on IMDb right now, and there are 2 seasons.
Uh, I don't think so.
Unless we're talking about a different show, yeah.
Okay, well, I watched just the first season, but it did get canceled. Whatever. It should have had more.
Yeah, and maybe the second season picks it up and it ends well for you. Like, that'd be cool.
No, they tied it up. There's nothing more to do.
Oh,
Like
really?
I think there's one season because they finished it.
Oh, all right. Well, it felt like an actual end. It didn't feel like a season 2
It
was
felt
even
like a rushed
required.
end. Like we're going to get
Okay,
canceled, so let's tie it up.
so let's finish it up. All right. Interesting. Well, if you watch season 2, you will have to tell us what you think.
I'm not going to watch season 2.
You're not going to? Okay, fair enough. I can't remember if I watched season 2. I know I at least watched season 1, but I can't remember if I watched season 2. Anyway, I remember it being a pretty entertaining show with a lot of cool ideas. I felt like they just didn't come together completely, is what I was thinking. But it's been a really long time. I'm not sure.
Like I said, I thought there was only one season. It really felt like the first half they were doing a really good job. Like I said, they had all the backing to make this a really big show.
Mhm.
Creators of Lost wrote it, um, who then went on to make From. So like
That's
big
a big deal.
big stuff. J.J. Abrams is signed on. John Favreau all signed on this project, and for whatever reason, it feels like, oh, we're getting canceled, so let's just like bum rush all of these ideas.
I know.
Which
So
is a little unfortunate.
what would you rate this show?
The first half, where it's genuinely really good and they have hope to make more than one season, I think it's like an 8 out of 10 show.
Oh, nice.
It's
Well,
really, really good. The second half is probably like a 4.5, simply because they do rush too many ideas. There's a lot of not well fleshed out ideas that you can see. Man, if only they'd taken a little extra time to develop that could have been really good. Specifically, Elizabeth Mitchell's character, she kind of goes from like, I have to do anything and everything to protect my kids, to I have to do anything and everything to avenge my son. And she becomes like this cold blooded, carefree murderer. And it's like, okay, if you had taken the time for her to actually like grieve and go into the anger process of that and then feel guilt after, man, that could have been really good. But she just like kills some guy in absolute cold blood and then walks away from it and is like, you don't like it? Don't join me. I was like, I wouldn't go with you if you were that cold. Absolutely not. That is not at all the kind of character you established yourself to be in the beginning. And so, like, they have these ideas that I think are good ideas and they rush them, and they're mixed in with these ideas that are kind of just like mediocre or not very good ideas. And it kind of, like I said, it makes it wobble. And then you come to the end of season 1 and they tie it all up, and it's like, yeah, you didn't really stick that landing, because there's like no payoff to it. So like the last episode of season 1, they've been building up this guy Randall or something, and he's supposed to be this guy who knows everything and can turn the power back on, and this ex government guy. And his whole motivation is his son died in Iraq. So he goes, I'm going to intentionally turn off the power for everyone in the world, which doesn't make any sense because they established in his background that he had the ability to just do it to Iraq and basically give the United States the ability to wipe them out. So why are you taking vengeance on the entire planet?
Doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. There's also times where he's like the guy who can do everything, who has all the power and all the knowledge still. And other times he's just like, well, I was just some government monkey and I don't even know how to turn the power back on. So I need other people to do it for me so that I can, not joking, in the last episode, launch a nuke at other countries. Why does he need to launch a nuke at other countries? I don't know.
No
His
idea.
explanation is the world is better with no people than some people. And if I can't control the power for just specific people who are evil, then no one deserves it. Okay, dude. And then he kills himself. What? So like
That's incredibly dumb.
they have some really good ideas, like I said with the mom and having her do grief and go through the anger stage could have been so good, but they rushed it. And then they had these other subplot ideas that they threw in there that just either weren't very good, weren't fleshed out well, or whatever. That it's not very good. But you know, overall, I would say it's more consistent than the 100. Even though I'd say the 100 season 1 is genuinely fantastic.
I like the first season of 100. I didn't make it to the second season. I thought it fell off a cliff, but
Oh, it did, but don't worry, it gets worse.
That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard.
Yep.
I'm not continuing watching that show. All right, let's do my next one. This barely came out this week, so I am not gonna spoil it a lot, but I will talk like minor spoilers. Final Destination. I am a huge fan of this franchise, like massive fan. Are they great movies? No. Do I care? No. I love these movies. A lot of reviews are glowing with this movie. I still think it's good. The fourth one is widely considered the worst one by everybody. I like the fourth one, even though it's the worst one. I think this is the second worst one, and there are glowing aspects to this movie. There's a part where there is a piece of glass that gets into a drink cup mixed with the ice that is absolutely chilling, and the entire time you are on the edge of your seat trying to figure out what's going to happen and who's going to die. For the people who haven't watched this, have you ever watched any of these, Josh?
Nope.
Okay, so the basic premise is there is going to be a catastrophe, and one person has a vision of the catastrophe and saves a bunch of people before the bad thing happens. And throughout the movie, death tries to get its claim back on the people who escaped its embrace. So they all die one by one, depending on how they were saved in the vision throughout the movie. This one does a cool twist on that idea, where it was the main character's grandma that has the vision and saves everybody, and the main character's grandma is trying to keep everybody alive, because it won't go down the list of wiping people out unless it's in the order of the way people were saved. In this, the idea is that none of her grandchildren would live if she had died, so they're all on death's list. But they won't go to the grandchildren until they wipe her out. And she has figured out how to escape death's embrace. The idea is cool. In the second Final Destination movie, there is another person who survives and is trying to escape death's embrace. But she goes and locks herself in a padded cell where there is literally nothing that can hurt her. The grandma decides to go live in the cabin in the woods that's covered in spikes and there's bombs all over the place, and somehow death is not killing her. She lives in like the place where death is going to kill you. The whole premise of Final Destination is how weak and fragile we are. And like you can tumble while you're doing gymnastics, or you can logs can fall off, or you can die in a tanning bed, or you can die on a roller coaster. There's a lot of great deaths in this series that are extremely entertaining. But the idea is that a thumbtack can literally cause you to die, and death is all around you all the time because you're fragile. And this lady, who is the only person that's stopping death from taking her family, is living in a place where death is around her all the time, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And it's the only one of these movies that breaks the immersion of the rules that these movies are supposed to follow, and it takes it down a whole lot. The highs are the action scenes, and the actual death pieces are extremely well done, particularly one with an MRI machine, and the one with the ice where you don't know where the piece of glass is at. Both of those are fantastic, and so they're so intense. They just like they draw you in. You're on the edge of your seat, and it's really well done. The idea is really cool. They just didn't flush out the idea with the grandma as well as I would have liked. But overall, still an enjoyable movie. If you like the Final Destination movies, you will enjoy this one. You'll have a good time.
I don't think I'll enjoy the Final Destination movies. That's why I haven't seen them.
I think you might like the first one. It's got a lot of mystery aspect to it. I don't think you'd like the rest, to be honest. The fifth one is actually my favorite, and in my opinion, has the most underrated twist, maybe in movie history. Like it's a great twist, and the clues are all there, and it is not rated as highly as it should be. It's a great twist.
I'm glad you like it. And I think it's a thing that a lot of people would like. I just don't see it as my kind of show.
That's
Like
fair.
I know what the plot is. I've seen tons of stuff for it.
Yeah.
I've been suggested it because of things similar that I do like.
Mhm.
But I've seen clips and things from it, and it just does not seem like something I can get invested in.
Fair enough. There is some ridiculous to it. It does have a B movie aspect to him for sure, but
Yeah.
I highly enjoy the whole series.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Like I know enough about it that I'm like, yeah, I can see people liking that premise, that idea, and all those kinds of things. Just it's never grasped me enough to actually turn it on and watch it, which is, maybe I'm missing out on something. But
Fair enough. Honestly, the first one is the only one that I'm like, you might enjoy that. The rest of them, I think you would find so B movie that it would kind of draw you out and you wouldn't enjoy it,
okay,
to be honest.
fair
But
enough.
like I said, if you guys like Final Destination, this one is worth going to in the theater. It's there's a lot of good callbacks. There's some bad callbacks to the earlier movies. They did a really cool thing with one of the characters that's in multiple of the other movies. And they kind of gave him a backstory, which I loved. But you've got the grandma problem that just doesn't completely fill it out, you know?
That's fair. It
All right.
sounds kind of dumb.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Even Sid, who's watched the movies because I like them, her first thought was like, "What? Why would the grandma live there?" It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Okay, dude. What is your next one?
All right, my next one is pretty much just a recommendation for you personally and
Okay.
for anybody else who's kind of interested. I finished the show Happy Face.
Okay.
You once said that you wanted to watch more true crime
I do.
stuff like this, where it's not necessarily a podcast or a documentary style, but more, you know, dramatized, Hollywoodized truth. And this is the best one I've ever seen. Uh, Granted, that's not many. I'm not a big true crime reenactment thing, uh, you know, But this one's genuinely really, really good. I think all the actors do a fantastic job. Uh, I think that the loose history that it is based on is really interesting and really cool. I like the aspects that they do it. I love the puzzle that they're building around.
So
It's
I know
really
you,
good.
I know you talked about this before, but I can't remember. Tell us like the rough basis of what this is.
Happy Face is a real life serial killer who killed 9 people, and in this one, he claims to have killed a 10th and will
Okay,
only confess to his daughter, who works for a TV show that does true crime stuff.
cool.
So his whole thing is he wants to rebuild his relationship with his daughter because he's quote unquote getting older, and uses this as an excuse to talk to her again. Now, in real life,
Cool.
she does have a relationship with her dad, the Happy Face Killer, and has taken her kids to go meet him and this, that, and the other stuff. And in the show, she's very much protective of them and trying to keep their identities separate from him. But the show uh, takes an approach of what would it be like in this day and age if people did find out that you were the child of the Happy Face Killer or the grandchild of the Happy Face Killer. So, like, the son has a really hard time because the son had some friends, and now the friends find out that their grandpa was the Happy Face Killer, and now the friends' parents aren't so confident that they should be around that family, right? So he loses a friend. But the daughter, who's in middle school, high school age, is like bullied and picked on and stuff, but all of a sudden the popular girl who loves true crime is now
Mhm.
finding a reason to talk to her and be friends with her and a little bit jealous of her. And
Hmm.
so she gains popularity from the knowledge that she's the family member of the Happy Face Killer. uh, and then you have the husband who married into this family, who's up for a big promotion, who gets denied that promotion because it's a public facing thing, and they want, the company doesn't want a public facing position to be attached to that name and that level of like dishonesty and cruelty and stuff. So he gets denied for a promotion he was pretty much a shoe in for. Um, Not real history, but is so interesting and so well thought out and fleshed out with like the different age groups and how they would react to this kind of knowledge, and how when that becomes public knowledge, how it kind of defines you in a way just because you're connected to it. There's like, it's at the very beginning of the show. There's a scene where one of the police officers shoves the daughter of Happy Face up against a wall and says, do me and I'll do something for you, kind of a thing. And she freaks out justifiably. And he's like, I just wanted to see if you were as messed up as your dad.
Whoa.
You know,
Wow.
like, it's a brilliantly put together scene, and it loops back around to some other stuff. And like, I genuinely really, really like this show. I think it's really well done. It's only like 6 episodes or something. Maybe it's 7. So it's not very long. There's enough truth in it to teach you some history. I'm a fan of history. I love history. I've been watching so much Fat Electrician over the past 2 weeks. It would amaze people. He's a YouTuber. He just
Oh,
he talks about history. Yeah, he's a big history. He's an ex-marine, I think. He's ex-military of some kind, and
okay.
he just loves history. So he tells like even the most ridiculous stories, like how Costco's the most gangster grocery store of all time. That's literally the name of his video. Super entertaining. I'll share a video with you so you'll probably recognize him when you see it. But
Okay.
anyway, he just loves history. He's been talking about history. Happy Face, true enough that a history fan like me is like, hey, I understand the liberty that they took there. I understand the liberty they took there, and I understand the liberty that they took there. Um, You said you wanted to watch more of this stuff. Like I said, I don't think I could recommend a better one.
Cool. I will absolutely watch this. It doesn't really sound like it, but as you were talking, I wondered if it felt like Blacklist. Does
I
it
haven't
feel
seen it.
similar to that? Oh, you've never seen. Okay, never mind. Never mind then.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll put that on my list for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
It's true crime style. I don't know what Blacklist is, but it's true crime style.
Blacklist just has a criminal type person that connects with a girl, and you don't know if it's his daughter or not. But it's a very similar start of a thing where he's like, I'm only going to talk to this one girl. And then from that point on, it changes a little bit, and the criminal helps him find other criminals and put them away. So that's not really the same,
Yeah,
but the whole
no, it's
connection at
not.
the beginning of
It's
one
not like
criminal
that at
trying to
all.
talk to the daughter. Okay.
Yeah, no, the majority of this show follows the daughter and her trying to figure out if her dad actually killed a 10th person. So she starts making connections from her own personal life and her own memories, and her dealing with things like, should I have noticed or done something earlier? Should I have known? Should I have been able to turn him in? Could I have saved? Right? She goes through a lot of these kind of emotions of guilt and responsibility and being connected to her. She has this big storyline where she's like, she loves her dad because she has all these memories of her dad, like dancing with her when she was a little girl, and how the knowledge of what he did doesn't change those memories, even though it changes who he is and the way he sees her. Um, so there's just a ton to this show. Like I said, it's really, really well done. I think all the actors do a fantastic job. It's super good. And I don't really like true crime stuff, to be honest. Like, it's not really my thing. The closest I come is Mr. Ballin, and that's because it's strange, dark, and mysterious stuff, not necessarily. Once upon a time, there was this guy in England, and he brutally murdered 95 kids, and now I'm going to tell you the stories of how he murdered these children. Yeah, how relaxing and loving is that? Like, I don't understand that idea that is so popular that people relax to that depressing, awful stuff. But this one is really well done, and even I have to acknowledge, like, I was thoroughly entertained with every single episode.
I will absolutely check it out for sure. Let's go on to my next one. We've got season 6 of This Is Us. It is much, much, much better than season 4, season 5. I also think it's better than season 3. I'll go through the one thing that I really didn't like in this season, and then I can go through just
Let me
what
guess,
I thought
it was Randall.
No, it wasn't. Randall is actually fine in this season. They get rid of all the complaining, whiny bullshit from the other seasons. They, so in season 5, uh, Kevin Kevin gets a girl pregnant. Kate's best friend, the blonde one, the really skinny one, and they have twins. And they decide that they're not going to get married, and they're just going to like co-parent, and it's kind of whatever. It's fine. But at the beginning of this season, Madison is her name. She starts to have a relationship with another guy. Totally fine. That's cool. Whatever. Move on with your life. Awesome. They're actually good co-parents. They work together really well. But there's an episode where Madison, Kevin is like, okay, we'll go over to the cabin for Thanksgiving because Thanksgiving is their big holiday, right? Everyone knows this. Kate knows this. And you can bring the twins and the boyfriend can come. That's totally cool. And she's like, I don't really want to go to Thanksgiving, and I kind of want to keep the twins, and I want the boyfriend and I to just hang out with the twins. And I'm like, it's Thanksgiving. You don't even care about Thanksgiving. Nobody cares about Thanksgiving. This is the only family in the world that cares this much about Thanksgiving. And you're going to take away his kids on the one holiday that nobody else cares about, including you, for their first major holiday, and he just wants to take his kids to celebrate his big holiday. And then Kate and Madison both lecture him about how he's just being a piece of crap because they should be able to spend the holiday with their mother for a holiday they don't even care about, and Kate also knows is their big holiday. And it actively made me mad. I thought it was stupid, and it led me to the problem that I have mostly with this show of there are times where they write for the characters, where it makes sense, where it progresses with the characters even if it's not what I agree with the characters doing. And then there are times where it feels like the writers are trying to make a point and shove that point down your throat. And this felt like they needed to make a point that I don't even know what the point is, like respect
Fathers
the
don't matter.
mother and fathers don't matter or something. But it just felt garbagey because what Kate would never be like, yeah, it's our favorite holiday, let's just take away the kids. Stupid. It was stupid. I didn't like it at all. That is really the one major negative I have in this season. Otherwise, actually, I think it's pretty well done. I think it's a good season of TV. Um, they do have Kate and Toby divorced, which I wouldn't have thought would go well. But throughout the seasons, they have Toby, like he loses weight and he's happier and he's doing things for his, and he's doing things that are more about him, and like he's happier and he's still loving Kate, but he's becoming a different person. And Kate is becoming a different person, and they kind of drift apart. And I think the writing done for that was surprisingly well done. Um, they both have points where they're arrogant, where if they would have shifted a little bit, they could have come together, but they don't shift a little bit. They decide to choose what they choose. And I don't necessarily think it's right, but it didn't feel like they were shoving a talking point down my throat. It felt like they were actually writing good character work, and I was impressed. Um, it's well done. They have Rebecca, and she's going into dementia, and it's really sad, but it's not like pandering. It's just sad, and it weirdly brings the family together because they're all trying to spend the time that they have with mom. They're trying to care for mom. Kevin, who has been kind of a screw up in the past, finally has his crap together, and he says, "I'm gonna move in with mom. I'm gonna take care of mom. Randall, it's okay. You don't have to hold everything together. I've changed. I've grown up." Randall has this moment where he realizes that he doesn't have to be this glue anymore. Kate's different. Kevin's different. And that's okay. He can just be with his family. He can take care of his family. They get rid of a lot of the bullshit they did with Randall's family earlier, and they just have the family come together, and it's okay. Like, you don't have to force all that stuff down your throat. It's just pretty well done. Um, and it makes for a good season. You have 3 standout episodes. One where Miguel dies, incredible writing, really, really well done. You see Miguel's life, and there's this scene at the very end where Rebecca is looking at a tree where they planted together, and it passes through different time frames, and it starts as a sproutling, gets bigger, and gets bigger, and at the very end, it gets at the largest size. You realize Miguel's not there, and Miguel is gone. And in the very next episode, you have Rebecca who has lost her memory, and she's saying, "Where's Miguel? Where's Miguel?" And it is just like, it is heartbreaking. It is rip your heart out. Hard. It's hard to watch, but it's hard to watch because it's so emotionally impactful and so well done. And then you have the last 2 episodes where Rebecca is dying, and Kate is trying to get back home from London, and Rebecca she's riding the long black train to her final resting place where she can see Jack. You know she's going towards Jack the entire time, and she's like, "I'm waiting for somebody." And Kate's not there yet. She's seeing all these faces pass as people come in and they talk to her by the bedside. Along the train, you'll have Miguel there, you'll have Beth there, you'll have the grandchildren there, and they're all along this train as she's proceeding forward and forward to be able to go to Jack. And it is fantastic. Really, really well written. The last 2 episodes, I honestly would recommend you watch, where you watch the rest of the show, because it's well done. Um, and she's about to open up the door and be able to go see Jack. She's like, "I can't yet. I'm waiting for somebody." And she's supposed to pass in the middle of the night. And Kate's on this long flight. They don't know if she's gonna make it, and she just holds on. And then all of the big 3 come into the room, and Kate's able to say goodbye, and Rebecca goes and sees her husband. And like, you know that that's what's gonna happen. You know that's what's going to happen. What else would they do? Of course, they're going to have her go see Jack. It doesn't change the fact that it has a large emotional impact on you because you've been on this long journey with both of them. And yes, you love Miguel and you love the fact that she's not alone, but Miguel's not Jack. It's great. It's a great ending. Um, and it is too bad that there is so much bullcrap in season 4 and season 5 because they have the ability to write great stuff. Like they write a lot of great stuff in season 6, and the show should be an all timer. But I will watch episodes of this show again, and I will not watch the whole thing.
Well, I'm glad they gave you an ending that you're happy with.
Yeah, I really like the ending. Really good.
Good.
It's really good. I wrote season 4 and 5. Kevin rehabilitates Uncle. Kevin has kids with Madison. Randall becomes a government civil servant. Kate gets a job with a music teacher for troubled children. She has 2 kids of her own. Rebecca gets Alzheimer's. Beth starts teaching dance. And you're welcome, guys. You can skip season 4 and 5. Don't watch it. It's not worth your time. And then you can watch the rest of the show because the rest of the show has some insanely high highs that are absolutely worth watching.
So, what would you rate this show on a scale of 1 to 10?
The whole show. Whole show 6.5.
And each season.
Season 1 is like an 8. Season 2 is like a 9. Season 3 is like a 7, maybe. Season 4 is a 4. Season 5 is a 3. Season 6 is probably like a 7.5.
Okay.
Yeah, probably 7.5.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, so there you go, people. This Is Us.
This
by
is
Conlon.
Us. Watch the whole thing. All right, man. Let's go. Did you want to talk about The Fugitive?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead with it.
All right. So this is actually 2 kind of movies. Have you seen it?
I love The Fugitive, and I've watched it many, many, many times.
Okay. So The Fugitive, Harrison Ford versus Tommy Lee Jones. This is a movie that I've been going through those like childhood memory movies not too long ago. And then I started to think about movies that I had as a kid, but that like my mom wouldn't let me watch. And I vividly remember there was one where Harrison Ford was framed for murder, and I couldn't figure out which one it was. So I recently had a visit with my mom, and she was like, "Oh, it's The Fugitive," and there's a sequel to it called U.S. Marshals from Tommy Lee Jones' point of view.
Really?
Yeah. So I was
cool.
like,
I didn't know that was a sequel.
Whoa. And so I turned on The Fugitive and I was like, holy heck, this is so good.
I love this
Harrison
movie.
Ford plays a doctor who uses his doctor skills to actually get out of stuff. Like there's so many of these movies where they're like a genius at everything and you go, that's just stupid. But in this one, it's like he actually uses his knowledge as a doctor, so his knowledge makes sense on why he would know that kind of stuff.
That's fantastic.
And he does all this kind of research to find the guy with the prosthetic arm. And it was awesome when he runs into the cop and the cop's like, have you ever seen anybody 5'11", dark hair, blue eyes? And he's like, every time I look in the mirror, except for the beard. And he's literally like, that's me. And you're just like, oh, so good, so funny. There's a lot of humor in this one. In this one, Tommy Lee Jones' character makes a lot of sense. There's the scene in the sewer system where Harrison Ford's like, I'm innocent. And Tommy Lee Jones is like, I don't care. My job's to catch you as a fugitive.
which
And
I
you're like,
love.
oh my gosh, so good. Um, all of the pieces make sense and it comes together. I genuinely love this movie. I've got it pulled up on Google right now. It's a 7.8 out of 10 on IMDb, 96 on Rotten Tomatoes, and 7.8 out of 10. I would give it a 9 out of 10 because I
Okay.
genuinely, really, really love this movie. I think it's extremely well thought out. It's the kind of movie where there's no like villain because it's two good guys chasing each other and trying to get away from each other, and Harrison Ford trying to prove his innocence. Love it, love it, love it. So good. Last night, and then finishing it up this morning, I turned on US Marshals
Okay.
because it's a sequel. It's not the same storyline as The Fugitive. It is another one with Tommy Lee Jones chasing a fugitive,
Okay.
but it follows his point of view rather than the escapist's point of view. And it is real rough.
Nah. Too
Uh,
bad.
in this one, the guy he's chasing is like ex CIA spy guy, and there's literally a scene where he swings from a building onto the top of a train to get away, and you're like,
Mm.
okay, come on. Uh, there's a plane crash scene where the plane has to land on a runway, and it's Phil. It's the escape scene where the fugitive gets away, and the plane comes down, lands on the road, and it's so bad because the plane doesn't slow down at all. So it's going the exact same speed. So you're like, okay, I know you're trying to build up to this moment where it crashes into these telephone poles or power lines and then goes off of a cliff, but you got to have it like trying to slow down before it gets there. Not an even speed while you're braking. Like the plane has brakes. It's they show the pilot putting the brakes on, and you're like, okay, it probably should have stopped by now. Okay, for sure by now. Okay, for sure by now, based on the speed and the fact that they're braking. And then it hits telephone poles, and you're like, okay, that would stop it by the speed. And it cuts through like 20 telephone poles and then goes off of a cliff and then crashes into the water.
Mm.
Aside from that part, they do some really cool effects with the plane flipping upside down and going into the water, and Tommy Lee Jones trying to save the prisoners, and a lot of the other cops saying, it's a lost cause, just leave them behind, kind of mentality. Um, there are some good aspects to it. It is worth watching, it is very interesting. I just didn't love the fact that he was a U.S. Marshal chasing a spy. And you go, okay, we get it. The spy's running away to prove his innocence. But, like, he's not that compelling of a character. And to be fair, he's not really supposed to be, right? Um, it's just like the high of The Fugitive. I was very pumped for this movie. And then I watched U.S. Marshal, and I was very much like, I'm glad I watched it once, but probably wouldn't watch that one again.
Okay. U.S. Marshal has been on my list for a very long time because I love The Fugitive as much as I do. I thought they were separate. It sounds like they're more separate.
It's a direct sequel.
It is. It is okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Tommy Lee Jones plays the same character. They make a lot of references to the fugitive in the movie. It's got all the same supporting cast. Everybody on Tommy Lee Jones' side in the fugitive, like all of his supporting guys, are all there. Plus, you get Robert Downey Jr., so he's an addition. So,
cool.
I mean, it's
I
got good stuff to it.
I'll still watch it. The Fugitive, I love so much. I've even debated like, do I like this character more than I like Indiana Jones
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Han Solo? Like,
No, he
I love
falls
this
right in the middle.
character. It's close to me. Um, I watched this over and over and over again. It's one of the few things that I've ever watched the extended, like extra cut movies on how they made the movie of, because I love this movie so much. The train scene it's really cool to watch how they made it, because a lot of cameras on trees all over the place, and then they had one shot. If the shot didn't work, they were out of money and they couldn't do it, so they had to make it work in one. And they wanted to do the greatest train crash of all time. And watching Harrison Ford have to hide because things didn't go completely right, and him actually like be in danger with his life, and the way they got the different camera angles, and the fact that one camera failed, so cool. Um, I did a high school physics class, and we were supposed to decide a movie and see if a stunt was actually physically possible. And I chose where he jumps out of the dam into the water below. And basically, if things went perfectly, he could have survived. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have. But I love this movie so much that that's the scene I decided to see if it was physically possible with physics. The acting is great. The story works together really well. I like the villain. Um, I like the reason for the villain. Like, it's a pretty simple reason, but it's good enough. I like it. Tommy, this is my favorite Tommy Lee Jones movie for sure. It's just great. They just hit gold. It's just great.
I like Men in Black a little bit better. The first
Oh,
one.
I like this movie better than Men in Black for sure. For sure. I like Lincoln a lot, but this is my favorite of his movies.
Yes, he's great in it. I know the villain story really isn't that deep, but it's not really meant to be because it's about him
Yeah,
proving his innocence, and so the villain really is kind of just like a side plot, which I think works out really well in this kind of show.
I agree. It's I love this movie. I would give it a 9 too. Solid 9. I don't give a lot of things about solid 9. It deserves a solid 9.
Yeah,
All right.
really, really good.
With that, let's go to our shared topic. We decided to do Macbeth this time. Um,
David Tennant's version
David
specifically.
Tennant's version. I will talk. I watched Patrick. What's his last name?
Stewart.
Patrick Stewart's version. Just for some contrast, I read Macbeth when I was in high school, and I liked it. I read it because I liked Othello as much as I did, so I wanted to read some of his other major works. And I liked Macbeth. I've never seen a stage version. I've never seen a movie before. This was my first time. I watched David Tennant's version first, and I was impressed with the sound design. I was impressed with the acting. I didn't really like the costume choices. It all felt too drab. And the Patrick's version really put that into contrast on how much I was missing good costumes like you have with theater with David Tennant's version. Now, David Tennant's version did some cool things with audio in particular. If you weren't wearing headphones, I think you would miss a lot, because the spatial audio on where they put different objects was extremely well done. The music of the witches echoes in your head and echoes throughout the entire play. They did some really cool things that way. Them knocking on the glass also just sounded incredible. But the idea that it, he's kind of stuck in his head, and everyone's trying to get this attention, and he's drifting deeper into madness, was extremely well done. I think David is not as good of a Macbeth. I think he does some of the madness really well, but at the beginning he still kind of feels manic, where Patrick Stewart feels like dignified, and he breathes a little bit, and he lets the lines sit a little bit, and it makes for a much more compelling version of the story. The costumes are more compelling in Patrick's version. I think the relationship between Lady Macbeth and Macbeth is better in Patrick's version. Lady Macbeth in David's version, I think, is better when she's alone. She's really good at those scenes where she's just monologuing. The actress does a very good job. Um, I think Patrick's version is a little easier to follow because you're moving into different locations, and that helps a lot with the flow of the story. Where David's version, because he is so manic the entire time, you don't get a sense of the progression of the story nearly as well, in my opinion. Both are good. Patrick's version, in my opinion, is significantly better. The What I found interesting about both is, one, the story is very well. It's a good story. It's well written, and I love the idea of, is this a choice that he's making, or is this destiny? That there's an idea researched in a lot of literature of like, what is destiny, what is choice. Like it's a common it's common thought that's really struggled with within religious studies, within academia, within anything. And this does it better than most, where it's like, did the witches put him on the path? Did the witches give him the inspiration to become a killer? Was he always destined to be the killer? They do that extremely well with Macbeth, and I love that aspect of the play itself. I also really love the idea of Lady Macbeth pushing Macbeth to become this monster. And then at the end, and something I think is done better in the Patrick version, showing that him being the monster pulls her away and ruins the relationship and causes her damage. So she has this dream of being the wife to the king, of following following the prophecy, of completing the prophecy. But when the prophecy happens, her husband is drifting into madness, and she is more alone, more sad, more broken than ever. And she drifts into madness too, following her husband. And this relationship transforms, and they break. And Macbeth is hearing these voices calling for guilt, and that guilt is eating him up and changing him. And that change in him allows him to not really support his wife, not really draw closer to his wife, and his wife is alone in this guilt too, and she gets drawn to madness. And at the very end, everything is just a story told by a fool. Is that what the line is? By an idiot. The story is told by an idiot. And it's left with this irony of, I seek to survive, but why do I survive? I've played this game. I've played the hands. I've walked the trajectory these witches have told me to walk, and I'm left with nothing. There's a lot of deep insights into this piece of art, and I understand why it is so heavily favored and sometimes even rated as the greatest thing that's written by English, because it is just extremely well done.
So why don't you rate them both on a scale of 1 to 10 before I go into mine?
David Tennant's version I thought was a 6.5, and Patrick's version I thought was an 8.
Okay. Very, very cool. I have not watched the Patrick Stewart version in a little while. However, I do love it. I purchased it to own it because I love it so much. I'm a big fan of David Tennant. I make no qualms about that. I think he's a super underrated actor. He deserves bigger roles. He does a fantastic job. He's the only watchable Doctor Who in my eyes. I think every other one I've seen is absolutely terrible. I think that his version of a Macbeth does something very interesting, something that I thought you would find really compelling, and that is the sound design was done on purpose. So everybody in the theater was given headphones, and the spatial audio of the music and the instruments, and specifically the whispering that the actors do in it, was done on purpose. And I am honestly very impressed with that work that they put into it.
Super cool.
Now, all that being said, I disagree with you. I think David Tennant does a fantastic job as Macbeth. I just think that everything else around him is done terribly. So the way David Tennant's is reviewed as a modern art-esque version of Macbeth.
Yeah, it felt like, I didn't say this earlier, but it felt like Lily when she's putting on the play in How I Met Your Mother. That's kind of how I felt while I was watching this. Anyway, keep going.
Yes and no. So this is actually a prominent stage. It's a very big production that they put on, hence why they were
Okay.
able to do all this sound stuff. But it was literally a modern art version, right?
Okay.
So we're not going to have things be exactly as they're said to be. We're going to leave things vague. Uh, the reason that David Tennant's version feels rushed and not as fulfilled is because it's not. I don't know if you noticed this or not, but they cut sections of Macbeth from his version of Macbeth that are pretty important parts. And other parts they condensed into smaller, more passive parts. Like in the Patrick Stewart version, which is actually every line from the original play, there's the dinner scene, and it's a big part about him being haunted and guilt and PTSD all coming together in this amalgamation. And in David Tennant's version, it's like 30 seconds and he's back up on stage, and they spend more time dancing about having just won a war than they do in
In developing the
in
character.
developing the character, which is like the most ridiculous thing. So my review of this is David's Tennant's version is a modern art version of Macbeth. And while they do some really cool things with the sound, I hate modern art. I think it's so stupid to say this blank canvas is more than just a canvas. The coolest scene in the whole thing is when people are pounding on the glass and you hear all the knocking. Guess what? That's like a 5 seconds out of this 2.5 hour monstrosity modern art baloney crapola waste of a time. Uh, I love Macbeth. It is my favorite Shakespeare.
Okay.
Othello is a very close second,
Mine's King Lear.
but I love Macbeth. Uh, like you said, all of those themes that it tackles about guilt and the fact that the wife plays into it and then feels guilty for the role she played, even though she didn't spill the blood herself. How she still feels responsibility to it, while and also feeling guilty for the guilt that he has mixed with the PTSD from war is only portrayed in the Patrick Stewart version when we're talking about the two. And I love the Patrick Stewart one. His
Right.
delivery is really good. I don't have anything against David Tennant. I think he did a great job acting with what he was given. I hated every other part of it. I hated that you couldn't really follow where they were at in the story because they rearranged the story and
It was
because it
so
was a
confusing.
modern art take on the story. And I hate how they basically cut out the witches, and like double double toil and trouble is like an iconic line in
Yeah.
basically anything, and it's barely mentioned in the David Tennant version. Like the witches play such a bigger role in the original play,
I mean, the
and they're
witches,
like,
they're really not in the Patrick Stewart version that much
yes,
either.
they are. They're in
Not
it.
a
They
ton.
push it down the line. They're impactful. They matter.
They are impactful. They're not in it that much, but they're impactful.
Yeah, but they matter, right? And the David Tennant one, they just like throw the line in basically because they feel like they have to because it's Macbeth.
And they
Um,
have the singing that goes along in the background that you can hear, and the singing is actually telling the prophecy in the background. I actually didn't have a problem with the witches in the Tennant
I
version.
super hated what they did with the witches in the David Tennant one. Like you yourself talked about how they are. Did they send him down the path or what is destiny? Right? You can't have that conversation with the David Tennant one.
It's hard. It's you would have to already know the play to do it, because
Yeah,
they do it with the songs in the background. They do it, but it's a lot harder to catch if you don't know the story. A
yeah.
lot harder.
Uh, like I said, they cut a bunch of it, they rearranged a bunch of it, and they made it modern art. And I despise that so much.
Yeah.
Uh, The reason I kind of picked this is because I like Macbeth. I like David Tennant. Finding out that he had done a version of Macbeth, I was very ecstatic for. I didn't really know anything else about it other than David Tennant in Shakespeare is always good. And he is good. I think he does a great job. But it's a modern art take, and I think that's a big stupid thing to do. I very much prefer Patrick's version. I know they make it World War II, and that does make it a little bit easier for regular people to follow because we have more of a connection to that than the original writing of having it be Scottish royalty, which not a lot of people even know about, much less can relate or connect to in any way. But it's still a better vessel to tell the plot of Macbeth 2. I still love the Patrick Stewart version. It's like a 9 out of 10 for me. I absolutely love it. I don't think I'll ever go anywhere near David Tennant's version ever again.
I won't either. The lack of costumes was a problem. The cutting out of material was a problem. I like David Tennant when Macbeth starts to lose his mind. I think he does a really good job then. The beginning I didn't like as much because, like I said before, it still felt like he was kind of manic, and I didn't like that portrayal.
He's supposed to
But
be a little bit manic, though. Like, if you're talking about Macbeth's portrayal, David Tennant is a more honest portrayal of how it's written. You can like the Patrick Stewart version, but he's a manic guy to begin with.
not to the level that it feels like he's portraying it at the beginning of the play, to me.
The whole point is that he's so manic that people don't freak out when he does go insane. Right? That's kind of the subplot of what happens in the play is this is just Macbeth doing Macbeth things and people don't actually take him as crazy, and he gets
That's
a
an
lot away
interesting
with a
point.
lot more because right. So if you're talking about him being manic, like David Tennant does a more honest, truthful thing to the character. I think Patrick Stewart's version is more honest to the overall play because it doesn't rearrange it and it doesn't cut stuff. And it's just like, what if we had Macbeth in World War II? And that's it. They don't change any lines, they don't change any order, to my
Yeah,
knowledge. It's all the same, just World War II. And P.S. having the witches be the nurses is a brilliant choice, and
it
I
was a very good
loved it.
choice. Very good choice. And then having it be associated with like they're not Russians, but basically they're Russians, and so we can get that whole idea of tyrant ism through that. It was a good choice too.
Well,
The thing,
I
the
think
thing
they're still Scottish, but go ahead.
it's kind of confusing there because I actually looked it up. It's supposed to be a culture like Romania during the 60s is when it's actually supposed to take place. Kind of a culture behind the Iron Curtain. And something that I do wish they would have changed with Patrick's version is made it so it wasn't Scottish. Keep all the other lines exactly the same, but literally just replace Scotland with like Russia or something, because there's no connection with Scotland at all. And I think changing that one word, it'd be like 5 words throughout the entire play, would have elevated it a little bit. But it's a very small thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
But yeah.
because does it really matter that it's in Scotland? No, not really.
I mean, kind of yes when you're
For
talking about the way that the lineage is chosen and the reason Macbeth can take the throne at all.
yes,
But when you're
but
talking
in
about
this
World
like
War II, where it's not actual king, it's like captain or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
not really.
But
But
yeah.
the small thing, that's a small thing. It was
Yeah.
still highly enjoyable. I watched David's version first, and if my first experience with Shakespeare was this, if my first experience with Macbeth was this, I'd be like, I guess Macbeth's not really my thing.
That's fair.
Like I wasn't terrible, but I guess it's not really my thing. Patrick's version, I'd be like, huh, I might check out some more Shakespeare. I liked that. That was good.
Yeah. Like I said, in summation, my review is Patrick Stewart's version, 9 out of 10. I absolutely love and adore it. David Tennant's version, 2 out of 10.
Oh, was that bad for you?
Yeah. Like, when it wasn't bad, it was boring and hard to follow.
Fair enough. Did you like Lady Macbeth and David's Tennant version? Because I did.
No.
Okay, I did.
No. Because this is just me. Like, I took Shakespeare class in high school. We read Macbeth. In the way that we read it and the way that I understand it is she is pushing for her husband's success. In David Tennant's version, she's pushing for her own.
Interesting.
She becomes a lot more evil stepmother from Cinderella
rather than wife who is using her husband to grasp onto power because she can't grasp on it herself.
Yeah, so in the traditional one, it's like she's pushing him to be bigger because she thinks he can be, because she thinks he'd make a good leader. And she gets the witch's voice in her head, and she's like, okay, so it's actually possible, we can do this together.
Yeah.
And in David Tennant's version, it feels like she's literally like, hey, go kill that guy so that I can be powerful.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't get that, but it also doesn't feel as connected. And maybe that's where you're getting that from. Because in the Patrick version, Lady Macbeth and the person who plays Lady Macbeth and Patrick feed off each other really well. Like, they do a good job together. Where David Tennant's, they felt more separate. Like, she did a really good job, he did a really good job, and together they did the lines that they were supposed to do together. If that makes sense.
Well, like in the Patrick version, there's the time that they question whether or not they should kill whatever his name is, starts with an M, whatever, in order to grasp power.
Mm-hmm.
And in the actual writing and in the Patrick version, Patrick says, should we do this? Is this morally okay for us to do? And the wife says, he's not a good leader, but I understand your questioning. I agree. Maybe we should question this decision, right? And that's the way it's written in the original play. And in the David Tennant version, she's basically like, what are you talking about? This is our chance to be powerful. Right? They basically skip over the part where she also questions the morality of it. Right? So it feels all entirely like, screw you. I don't care about your guilt or your whatever.
There's no.
I'll do it myself if I have to. I genuinely just did not like it. I don't think she did a super great job in my eyes. But again, that could just be extreme bias in my eyes for it not being the way that I like it.
Fair enough. Well, guys, if you haven't watched Macbeth, watch the Patrick version. It's better.
It is.
If you have any other suggestions for adaptations of Shakespeare, I'm interested in watching more, because I've watched some stage productions. I've read quite a few, but I really haven't watched that many movies. And if you've got,
you've seen more than you think you have.
I know rough adaptations, yes, but I'm talking adaptations like this where you're basically getting the play.
David Tennant and Hamlet.
Haven't seen that one.
So good.
Okay.
So good.
I'll watch it.
I have multiple versions of Hamlet. That is my favorite version.
Okay. I will absolutely watch that one. I like Hamlet a lot. It's
a really good one.
That's great. Hamlet is really good. Anyway, guys, that is going to be our episode. We appreciate you guys watching. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll see you next week. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.